what can go wrong in literature review? Three main things, which is the topic can be too broad and too undefined, that we can be led by author rather than by the topic, and also that there's not a clear narrative, there's not a clear structure to the work that's being done. So in the first case, with it being too broad, in this sense, the literature on the topic can be actually too overwhelming. We haven't really defined the topic that we're looking at. We haven't defined the niche area that we're looking at. So there actually becomes too much literature to search. So we never really can get to the specifics of the problem that we're looking at. We can't really understand the entire past of an entire topic, but we can understand a little bit. We can understand a nugget of that area. So it's about the fine balance between breadth and depth. And of course we want to have a suitable breadth of knowledge, but that shouldn't become to the sake of getting a depth of knowledge about something. So that's the first one, is that topic can be too broad. The second one is that there's a tendency to be led by author rather than by the topic. So that is, let's say we read through 3 articles by Smith, Jones and Thomas, and what we do is we then dedicate a paragraph to Smith, a paragraph to Jones and a paragraph to Thomas. And they might be talking about relatively similar things, but it's actually easier, because I've taken my notes on each of those in each of those articles separately. It's actually easier for me just to write a paragraph and treat them quite separately. So I say Smith looked at X, Y, Z and found that da, 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 da. Jones looked at something similar and found da, da, da. So this can lead to a feeling of it actually being quite disjointed. And what we are always looking for is for students to be led by the topic. So if all of these 3 people are looking at something similar, let's put them in the same paragraph. Let's look at what makes them similar. All of these 3 authors agree that, however, there's some disagreement on how that has been studied, or there's some disagreement on the overall recommendations. So we start to actually compare and contrast authors in a more sophisticated way, as opposed to becoming some sort of annotated bibliography. And then finally, is narrative, is making sure that the themes of the literature review, let's say we had 3 themes that we were trying to lead the reader through with, making sure that they make sense and that they lead on from each other. So we don't want to have 3 different mini essays of looking at 3 disconnected areas. What we want to do is very much like chapters of a book. You know, chapters 1, 2 and 3, we would expect those to link on from each other. But not just to link on, but to advance the plot. By the time we get to the 3rd theme, by the time we get to the discussion and the conclusion and the implications and finding the gaps in knowledge, we want to make sure that the reader goes through that. So in making sure that there is a narrative that's been crafted is really important. So that's when it becomes very important to draft and redraft and really be happy to pick and tear apart that literature review, because it never goes right first time. So it's making sure that you can pore over it and treat it like a good piece of art, I think.